I feel like all I do is get on booktube these days and repeat myself. So hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you the books that I purchased throughout the month of August. I like to think that this is a pretty small book haul. I like to think that I did good this month, reining it in. I also can tell you 80% of these books were very purposeful purchases. They weren't anything that I just happened to see that caught my eye, and I'll explain more throughout the haul. I always like to start with the books that I picked up from the Book of the Month Club. So in August, I did buy 3. And this is where 2 of them are just impulse buys. But first, I did pick up The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. This was on my anticipated reads list for this year. And this is the story of a podcaster who finds herself embroiled in this criminal case involving the son of a prominent person being accused of raping a girl, a woman. While that's going on, our podcaster, what's her name? Rachel also seems to be being targeted by somebody mysterious. Their intentions are unclear at the beginning. I've noticed that a lot of booktubers are starting to read this and provide feedback. I've avoided said feedback. I just don't want to know. I think I'm hoping that it's so good that I don't want to know if it isn't. If you know that it's not good, don't tell me. And then this is a pretty interesting pick for me. It's The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. What intrigues me about this book so much is that it's science fiction that deals with parallel universes, a multiverse. And the rule for this particular setup is that interdimensional travel is possible, but you can only go somewhere where a current you does not exist. So our protagonist, Kara, has died in 372 other parallel worlds. So she is chosen as a interdimensional traveler because there's so many places she can go without running into herself. There are only 8 other Karas in the world in this multiverse, and one of them is killed suspiciously after Kara is chosen. The cover is beautiful. I thought it sounded interesting. It ticks the boxes for the kinds of science fiction that I do enjoy and that I do pursue. So I'll read it someday. Someday. And another departure for me, I picked up Atomic Love, which is historical. It takes place in 1950, and it is about a woman who worked on the Manhattan Project, which created the atomic bomb, and simultaneously had a love affair with a colleague. And all that was 5 years before the book takes place. She feels horrible guilt over her role in the Manhattan Project. And we also know that she is no longer with the individual that she was having an affair with. So he randomly gets in touch, and at the same time, the FBI gets in touch and tells her they're suspecting that he is committing treason. They suspect he is providing Russia with sensitive information. So they want her to facilitate some sort of relationship with him again in order to report back to them what he's up to. And so that's a love triangle. It's historical. It's, what does it say? Love, desire, betrayal. Her choice could save a nation. So another beautiful cover. Absolutely stunning. I shy away from any historical narratives. You guys know that. But if I am going to read historical, I do like it to have some sort of very specific event-based story so that I can place it in history. I mean, just telling me a story is about 2 people who happen to live in 1950 doesn't really mean anything to me. But when you take the narrative and use events like the end of World War II and the Manhattan Project, the development of atomic weapons, like, then I become a little bit more interested in reaching back to the past. It becomes a little bit more realistic for me to go into this world at that point. So I did also purchase Playing Nice. I think I had this pre-ordered. This is by J.P. Delaney. This was on my anticipated reads list. It is about two couples who realize they're raising each other's child. So it's a switched at birth story. One couple figures it out and then shows up at the other couple's door to say, this is your child and you have my child. I don't know anything else about it. I don't want to know anything else about it because that brief description is definitely enough to get me hooked. It makes me anxious and kind of ill. Like I immediately start thinking about these people. I immediately start thinking about what these people, what do they do? Like, what do you do? The importance of our DNA and furthering our genetic lines is important. But at the same time, the child that you've nurtured, I believe it's 18 months. I don't know why I think it's 18 months because it doesn't specifically say. But still, any child that you've nurtured for any period of time, you have an attachment to, and I just can't fathom where this is going to go. And I just already feel really upset. I'm just already upset. So I'm probably setting my expectations a wee bit high. The other absolute must buy on my anticipated reads list that came out in August is The Wicked Sister by Dionne. This is the story of a girl who voluntarily committed herself to a psychiatric unit and spent 15 years there thinking that she was responsible for the death of her parents and that she was insane and a danger to herself and to others. And after 15 years of being cut off from everything and society, she starts learning the truth and starts thinking that maybe she's given up 15 years. She's sacrificed herself for nothing, that there's more to the story. Obviously, The Wicked Sister, the title of this book kind of clues us into what sort of clues she might uncover or what the end result is, but we'll definitely have to see. Again, not trying to know too much. Dionne, love The Marsh King's Daughter. This is all stuff you guys have heard me say before. I just feel I feel like all I do is get on booktube these days and repeat myself. So I'm trying not to. I mean, this was an absolute must. There was no doubt about it. I had to have it. She thought she'd buried her past, but what if it's been hunting her this whole time? I mean, how can you not? Now, these next two books, I bought them both because I had good experiences with the author in the past. I didn't know they were coming out. I don't know how I missed these books, but they've both come out very recently. And like I said, the author just caught my eye and I was ready to try again for these authors or ready to give these authors another try. The first is The Girls' Weekend. This is by Jody Gehrman. Jody Gehrman is the author of Watch Me, which I enjoyed and have probably talked about recently or probably will talk about recently. But this is the story of a woman named June. And the synopsis of this is very reminiscent of In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. And somebody actually says somebody actually compares this book and its writing to Ruth Ware, and I don't know if that's like a genuine comparison or if somebody's just taking the easy way out. But the story is about June, who's in her 30s and gets invited to a baby shower that she doesn't want to attend, mostly because it's for kind of a past nemesis and her husband, who is also June's former crush. So some high school badness, some petty high school badness. But anyways, so she reluctantly attends, and there's a group of people there. It's kind of a getaway kind of thing, like In a Dark, Dark Wood. And so there's some conflict between the attendees and the guests of honor, what have you. But the party goes off without a hitch, I guess. But when everyone wakes up the following morning, they have no memory of the night before. And the woman, Sadie, the nemesis, I'm not sure if she's the pregnant one. June's nemesis, Sadie, is missing. And nobody, there's blood. She's missing. Nobody remembers the night before. And in order to find out who did it, like, all of these secrets start surfacing, which are, in effect, twists for the reader. I like the author's previous book, and I do want to see how similar this is to In a Dark, Dark Wood, and if it is similar, whether it's done better or not. So, and then the other author, this book is kind of damaged. It kind of makes me mad, but the other author is Heidi Perks. I read Her One Mistake by this author, and I liked it. It was good. This one is called Three Perfect Liars. It is about a woman who returns to work after maternity leave, and her temporary replacement refuses to leave. Like, her temporary replacement has done everything to take over the job permanently. And so it's about their conflict, in addition to this third woman who is the wife of the boss that both of the other women are trying to impress. And so these three women are somehow connected. They have secrets. They're trying to there are two of them that are competing overtly with each other. And then one who has a serious secret, and her husband has the authority in the decision between the two. So just this tangled web kind of reminds me of the Whisper Network. I'm going to have to see how it's done, because I'm not a huge fan of stories that pit woman against woman, especially if those things turn petty and become about, stereotypical conflict between women. I don't care for that. I'm hoping that the book manages to avoid that and brings some very significant, realistic, impactful conflict between these women. So, okay, so three more. The first of which is The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This is the story of two people who have to share a flat for money and convenience's sake, but it's a one-bedroom flat. It works out well because one of them works third shift and one of them works first shift. So while one of them is there sleeping, the other one is working, and vice versa. It's a romance, so these two communicate this whole time via little notes, etc. I don't know if there's any phone call conversations or not, but it's about the development of their relationship in these weird circumstances. I've heard good things about it. I typically like British romantic comedy. I'm hoping that this pays off. I ordered it from the Book Depository because I could only get it in hardcover in the US. I didn't want to spend quite so much on it, but the paperback was available from Book Depository, so... next, I'm probably the last person on BookTube to buy and read this book, but I purchased my sister, The Serial Killer. This is by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This is the story of two sisters, one of whom kills men, and the other kind of covers for her. So Corday is covering for her sister, helping her dispose of bodies, clean up crime scenes. She does it out of love, finds a way to be okay with that, until her sister starts dating the doctor at work that Corday has a crush on. And so she doesn't want her sister to kill him. And so then it becomes a pretty unbearable choice that she has to make. I've heard great things, I'm not going to lie. And finally, the last two books on this list, I must want to read them because they were both either difficult to get my hands on or way too pricey for a paperback. The first is Lancelot. This is by Giles and Kristian. This is exactly what it sounds like, a book about Lancelot. Specifically, this fits into the Arthurian fantasy that I had to read for the month of August. And so I'll tell you more about all of that later. But there was a reason that I purchased this. This book has received a fair amount of praise. I did have a heck of a time getting it. I could get it in the United States through like Amazon or whatever, but it was super expensive to do that. Like upwards of $25. This I actually purchased from the Book Depository for like $16. Not something I was dying to do, considering Arthurian fantasy is not probably going to end up being my favorite genre ever, but no spoilers. Like I said, this received such high praise. It was a fairly new release. It interests me a lot because it is the only, I'm getting way, I'm just telling you all about Arthurian fantasy. I need to shut up. Anyways, a book about Lancelot. I got it in August. I feel like I might have already hauled this, but I don't feel like going back and looking. So I'm just going to haul it again, because why the hell not? It's The Good House by Tananarive. This is the story of a house in Sacagawea, Washington, that is really adored by the people of that town, and then something tragic happens in the house. I think a boy dies. The victim's mother leaves and doesn't return until 2 years later, when she's ready to face, all of the possibilities surrounding her son's death. Namely, was it caused, or is an entity responsible for the death of her son? There's a haunted house story. The cover is beautiful. This was expensive. Yeah, this paperback retails for $29. I didn't pay $29, but not far from it. Just FYI. So I hope it's absolutely phenomenal. But a couple of these books I purchased with October in mind, so stay tuned for that, for those fun and interesting possibilities. That's what I have for you for books that I purchased in the month of August. I think I'm really disorganized. It is a sad, sad state of affairs over here. Let me know down in the comment section below if you've read any of those, or if any of them piqued your interest, what you thought. Don't reveal too much, because a lot of these books I know very little about on purpose, which usually isn't my style, but I'm so excited for them that I want to go in completely blind. So don't spoil anything for me. Thanks. And let me know what books you've picked up recently that you're really excited about. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.